How's it going, everybody? Vent Snake here. Recent updates on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game has gone a bit controversial in the player base. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the game recently got a big update on the 28th where a lot, and I do mean a lot, of updates, fixes, tuning, and just overall patches of the game were set out. To describe how long this list is, you could literally be scrolling for up to like 5 minutes. That's how much scrolling you have to do. A lot of it is just regular patches, you know, just tunages, right, ragdoll effects kind of going through, various glitches, various executions of, like, you know, very simple stuff that kind of pads out everything. However, we're going to talk about two big, well, really three big subjects. One's the overall subject, and two are kind of side major pieces. The last video that I made, I kind of just came with a title just saying, you know, hey, did this update kill the game? Because, you know, I knew there was some bad stuff there, but I didn't fully believe that title to be true. And come to find out, that title that I made was a lot more accurate than I thought it would be. I said this since the very beginning. At the very beginning, when you're first playing the game, it's pretty even between family and victims, right? But over time, when both sides get more experience, it's more heavily advantage for victims. Now you might be saying, well, that of course it's more advantage towards victims. They're victims. Their whole goal is to escape. Well, I mean, it's heavily sided towards victims. So with how just absolutely cracked out these perks are, few had mine being the agitator, where you could sink Grandpa's level down to 1 if he was at 5. Lay out people with the door for 18 seconds. You know, simple stuff like that. The game was completely one-sided towards the victims, especially if you were up against teams of victims. Because what would end up happening was they would have all these perks and would, no joke, just speed run escaping, and it would be just zero fun for family. And family queue times took a pretty big dip. Like, no one wanted to play family. Especially if you guys remember, this is going to come into play. The fuse box. If you weren't around before they updated this, when the victims turned on the fuse box, so they unlocked the basement exit, you could not turn it off. You just had to wait for it to run its course, or you had to run down to the basement exit and try to body block the door. And because they had Connie, whose whole main ability is to bypass a hardcore mechanic of the game, which is to unlock locks, people would use Connie with Leland, Anna, I guess Julie, and they would speed run fuse and end the game like a minute and a half. That's not even a joke. So they updated it along with all those other perks. They nerfed them down and they updated the fuse so that way you can actually turn it off. I believe that was fully a step in the right direction. I believe the game was pretty solid the way it was. And then they drop the November 28th update. And again, a lot of this stuff was good for the game. But then they just took it an extra step, and what ended up happening was they completely, and I do mean completely, undid major updates. Before we get to that, we'll just go ahead and start off with one of the other characters that got nerfed down to size. You would think, again, even with the previous update, victims were still pretty overpowered, but it was somewhat more even. So you think another nerf would be on the victim side. No, they nerfed Johnny, and they nerfed him to the ground. I mean, I'm not even joking about this. They literally nerfed Johnny to the ground. He's almost just a person that just doesn't do anything. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Johnny's whole kit is he's a tracker. So if you're walking around, like you can see on my screen how I'm walking around, you'll eventually leave footprints, especially if you're standing up and running like I'm doing right now. Johnny can find your footprint and start tracking you, your exact path that you took. Say, like if you're going up this hill, he could follow you straight up this hill. Well, they nerfed his tracking so that if you're crouch walking, you don't leave a footprint. Tune Johnny's hunt counter. We have adjusted the hunt ability to not detect victims who are crouched and moving slowly. So if you're crouch walking, if you're just crouched down or crouch walking, you will not leave a footprint for Johnny. You won't get a footprint. And on top of that, and I'm looking at it right here, I took a little edit just because I was about to say something that was incorrect. They also nerfed Cook's hearing as well. So it used to be, if you were making somewhat loud noises, if you didn't have high enough stealth, even if you were crouch walking, Cook could still hear you. Now, the way you would counter that is you just stop moving. Now you're not making any noise and he cannot track you anymore. Now he also can't detect you if you're crouched or moving slowly. But unlike Johnny, at least Cook has padlock, so he's still viable. Johnny, on the other hand, he's just dead and buried because on top of them nerfing his tracking ability, they also nerfed his lunge range when he's attacking. As Johnny, you're just blindly walking around. That's not even a joke. You are literally blindly walking around trying to hunt people down with no advantage whatsoever to your name. Like, yes, you still have like high damage output, but problem is you lack range. So when people are like circling around Johnny or juking him around corners, whatever, like doing the spin cycle, breaking ankles, he's just at such a disadvantage now. Like such a complete and total disadvantage all of a sudden. And it's almost to the point that he's just not playable. I mean, the only real time that he's actually worth playing is if you are really able to get the victims to run around now. Like right here, if we got people to run around and creating more footprints, Johnny would actually start being more viable. But here's the thing, and it brings me up to part 3, excuse me, is the inclusion of Danny, or as I like to say, pay to win Danny. Because you are literally buying a character for $10 that can guarantee you victory, or at the very least guarantee you victory for your teammates. Let's dial it back to my initial point about how they completely undo major patches, or they kind of contradict themselves, or eventually victims just get buffed and victims are back on top being way more dominant. So they already have victims stealthy around, and we have Connie who can bypass a crucial game mechanic of unlocking locks. They include Danny, and his whole main ability is that he keeps family from being able to turn off exits. That being the fuse exit and the valve exit. So what he can do is he can study the objects, which he doesn't really need to study them for that long in the first place. And once he studies them up, once he gets his hands on either the fuse or the valve, it's GG's. Because the second he gets that thing popped off, boom, adds his focusing in, boom, his tampering takes effect, and you can't turn it off anymore. I mean, literally they undid the whole major update that was to stop people speed running fuses. Because originally it was Connie, Leland, Anna, and Julie. What they would do is Connie would insta unlock a pick for a door, they would haul ass to a fuse, and they would pop it and run straight down because you couldn't turn it off, and then they would leave. Now you have Danny who can just keep it turned on. So now all of a sudden, we're back to people speed running fuses. We're back to family not having fun, family no longer wanting to play, family finding no value, or players really just finding no value in playing as family. So now we're back to longer queue times when you're in the lobby trying to find family members. I can't tell you how many times I'll sit in the lobby and there'll be 2 family members and we will literally sit and wait 2.5 minutes, and then last second we'll find somebody, or we just won't find anybody, and then the lobby ends. I've actually run into more game-ending lobbies, which in fairness, that could be people lobby hopping to try and get to play as Nancy or Danny. That I could totally get that, because at the end of the day, you spend $10 to play a character, you're gonna want to play that character. So I would hope that it would kind of be dialed back more once the game has hit, you know, a couple weeks or so, but definitely not for Danny. I feel as though the game was really, really stepping in the right direction, and then they took one huge step back, just one big old step back. Like, I feel as though the developer, for some reason, they really believe that victims need above and beyond the supplies, which again, early game, that makes sense, but when you go late game, when people are leveled up, they're level 10 characters, level 3 abilities, like everything maxed out, all of a sudden it's really one-sided for the victims. Victims literally become the oppressors. So you guys remember the meme with Leland literally oppressing everybody? Remember that meme? That was pretty funny. Connie, for me, was a #1 priority because of her bypassing mechanic, and now we include Danny, which is like just a huge step back. And what makes it funny is I don't really know how they're going to be able to fix this. Like, how are you going to be able to nerf his ability? Because it's his main ability, it's his whole gimmick, is to be able to keep you from turning it off. What they could have done so much better with his main ability is, instead of, hear me out on this, instead of him being able to turn on something and keep it turned on, instead his ability, after studying, gives him high, proficiency. I believe that's what it's called. So when he's with the fuse or he's with the valve, he can turn it on or off if he wants to way faster than anybody else. That's what I believe they should have done, instead of keeping it as, oh yeah, he just keeps you from turning it off. You might as well just start crying, family, because it's GG, it's over. Might as well quit. Literally, no joke, multiple matches of mine, family members just straight up quit once they realize that, oh, it's been tampered, there's nothing we can do. In comparison of what the family got with Nancy, Nancy's whole ability is that she thinks hard enough and she knows where you're at. Like, that's all she does. But not like she knows exactly where you're at. She has like a baseball park idea. Like, okay, I kind of see the area that you're in, I'm gonna go investigate. Which, even still, as the victim, you're gonna get an indicator that says Nancy spots you, and you can just move away from that spot, and now she doesn't know where you're at. I mean, all in all, I feel as though once again, the family got shafted really hard, and family's just gonna need another update. Even if you don't believe how impactful this is, on top of all these major updates, because family is getting so dicked on, essentially, in the patches, and victims are always winning, people are wanting to play victim more. I mean, queue time for victim, you'll literally be sitting there for like 2 to 3 minutes. Family, I kid you not, less than 20 seconds, I'll be in a lobby. Less than 20 seconds. And there'll still be times where me and my friend will sit there waiting for one person and nobody joins in 2.5 minutes. No one. Oh. With that being said, those are my final remarks. I've already said that. You know, I'm trying to do this all in just one take. Voice your comments, concerns, what you feel like they could have done better in the comments below. If you agree with what I have to say, leave a like. I greatly appreciate it. Subscribe for more content like this. I don't really make I try to make more gameplay videos rather than just sit here and talk about it videos, if you know what I'm talking about. But I play this game a lot, and you know, my most popular videos are on this game, so I kind of feel as though I'm kind of obligated. I know that feels weird, but you know, you got an opinion, might as well voice it. If you disagree, by all means, say it in the comments below. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. See you guys next time.
The fuck? Is it like glitch for you?
What the fuck? Yeah, it's missing its textures. It's just a black door.
That's why I thought it was open. Like, oh, there's Julie.
Game breaking glitch. I want my refund.